Part 3.
That cursed place of all wickedness where the deep water starts, gate of hell, sheer drop down to a bottom no sounding line can touch. Old Captain Obed done it, him that found out more'n was good for him in the South Sea Islands. Everybody was in a bad way them days. Trade falling off, mills losing business, even the new ones. And the best of our men folks killed the privateering in the War of 1812, or lost with the Elizy brig and the Ranger Snow, both of them Gilman ventures. Obed Marsh, he had 3 ships afloat, Brigantine Columbia, Brig Hetty, and bark Sumatra Queen. He was the only one that's kept on with the East Indian Pacific trade, though Esdras Martin's barkentine Malay Pride made a venture as late as 28. Never was nobody like Captain Obed. Old limb of Satan. I can mind him a-telling about furrin parts, calling all the folks stupid for going to Christian meeting and bearing their burdens meek and lowly. Says they ought to get better gods like some of the folks in the Inges. Gods that'd bring them good fishing in return for their sacrifices and had really answer folks' prayers. Matt Elliott, his first mate, talked a lot too, only he was agin folks doing any heathen things. Told about an island east of Otaheite where there was a lot of stone ruins older than anybody knew anything about, kind of like them on Ponape in the Carolines, but with carvings of faces that looked like the big statues on the Easter Island. They was a little volcanic island near there too, where there was other ruins with different carvings, ruins all wore away like they'd been under the sea unked, and with pictures of awful monsters all over 'em. Well, sir, Matt, he says the natives around there had all the fish they could catch and sported bracelets and armlets and head rigs made out of a queer kind of gold and covered with pictures of monsters, just like the ones carved over the ruins on the little island. Sort of fish-like frogs or frog-like fishes that was drawed in all kinds of positions like they was human beings. Obed, he notices besides that lots of the handsome young folks would drop out of sight for good from year to year, and that there weren't many old folks around. Also, he thinks some of the folks looked darn queer, even for Kanakies. It took Obed to get the truth out of them heathen. I don't know how he done it, but he begun by trading for the gold-like things they wore. Asked them where it come from, and if they could get more, and finally wormed the story out of the old chief. Wallachia, they called him. Nobody but Obed had ever believed the old yeller devil, but the captain could read folks like they was books. Nobody ever believes me now when I tell him, and I don't suppose you will, young feller. Though come to look at you, you have kinda got them sharp reading eyes like Obed had.
I found myself shuddering at the terrible and sincere portentousness of his intonation, even though I knew his tale could be nothing but drunken fantasy.
Well, sir, Obed, he learned that these things on this earth as most folks never heard about, and wouldn't believe if they did hear. It seems these Kanakies was sacrificing heaps of their young men and maidens to some kind of god things that lived under the sea, and getting all kinds of favor in return. They met the things on the little islet with the queer ruins, and it seems made sign talk as soon as they got over being scared, and pieced up a bargain afore long. When it come to mating with them toad-looking fishes, the Kanakies kind of balked. But finally they learnt something as put a new face on the matter. Seems that human folks has got a kind of relation to such water beasts, that everything alive come about of the water unked, and only needs a little change to go back again. Them things told the Kanakys that if they mixed bloods there'd be children as 'ud look human at first, but later turn more and more like the things till finally they take to the water and join the main lot of things down there. And this is the important part, young fella. Them as turned into fish things and went into the water wouldn't never die. Them as was born more like the things changed early, but them as was nearly human sometimes stayed on the island till they was past 70, though they'd usually go down under for trial trips afore that. Folks as had took to the water generally come back a good deal to visit, so's a man would often be a-talking to his own 5 times great-grandfather who left the dry land a couple of 100 years or so before. Everybody got out of the idea of dying. They thought what they got was well worth all they had to give up, and I guess Obed kind of come to think the same himself when he chewed over old Wallachia's story a bit. Wallachia, though, was one of the few as hadn't got none of the fish blood, being of a royal line that intermarry with royal lines on other islands. Wallachia, he showed Obed a lot of rites and incantations as had to do with the sea things, and let him see some of the folks in the villages had changed a lot from human shape. Somehow or other, though, he never would let him see one of the regular things from right out of the water. In the end, he give him a funny kind of thingamajig made out of lead or something that he said would bring up the fish things from any place in the water where there might be a nest of them. Matt, now he didn't like this business at all and wanted Obed should keep away from the island. But the captain was sharp for gain and found he could get them gold-like things so cheap it'd pay him to make a speciality of them. Things went on that way for years, and Obed got enough of that gold-like stuff to make him start the refinery in Waite's old run-down fulling mill. He didn't dare sell the pieces like they was, for folks would be all the time asking questions. All the same, his crews would get a piece and dispose of it now and then, even though they was swore to keep quiet, and he let his women folks wear some of the pieces as was more human-like than most. Well, come about 38, when I was 7-year-old, Obed, he found the island people all wiped out between voyages. Seems the other normal islanders had got wind of what was going on and had took matters into their own hands. Pious cusses, these was. They didn't leave nothing standing on either the main island or the little volcanic island, except what parts of the ruins was too big to knock down. In some places they was little stones strewed about, like charms. Folks all wiped out. No trace of no gold-like things, and none of the nearby Kanakys would breathe a word about the matter. Wouldn't even admit there'd ever been any people on that island. Now that naturally hit Obed pretty hard, seeing as his normal trade was doing very poor. It hit the whole of Innsmouth too, because in seafaring days, what profited the master of a ship generally profited the crew proportionate. Most of the folks around the town took the hard times kind of sheep-like and resigned, but they was in bad shape because the fishing was petering out and the mills wasn't doing none too well. Now then's the time, Obed, he began a-cursing at the folks for being dull sheep and praying to a Christian heaven as didn't help him none. He told him he'd know that folks as prayed to God to give something you really need, and says if a good bunch of men would stand by him, he could maybe get a hold of certain powers as would bring plenty of fish and quite a bit of gold. Of course, them as sarved on the Sumatra Queen and seed the island knowed what he meant, and weren't none too anxious to get close to see things like they'd hear tell on. But them as didn't know what it was all about got kind of swayed by what Obed had to say, and begun to ask him what he could do to set him on the way to the faith as it bring him results. Poor Matt. Matt, he allus was agin it. He tried to line up the folks on his side and had long talks with the preachers, not no use. They run the Congregational parson out of town, and the Methodist feller quit. Never did see resolved Babcock the Baptist parson again. Wrath of Jehovah, I was a mighty little critter, but I heard what I heard and seen what I seen. Dagon and Ashtoreth, Belial and Beelzebub, golden calf and the idols of Canaan and the Philistines, Babylonish abominations, meany, tickle a parson. He stopped, and from the look in his watery blue eyes, I feared he was close to a stupor brought on by the whiskey I'd given him. But when I gently shook his shoulder, he turned on me with astonishing alertness and snapped out some more obscure phrases. Don't believe me, huh? Yeah, you just tell me, young feller. Why, Captain Obed and 20-odd other folks used to row out to Devil Reef in the dead of night and chant things so loud you could hear 'em all over town when the wind was right. Tell me that, huh? And tell me why Obed was always dropping heavy things down into the deep water, the other side of the reef, where the bottom shoots down like a cliff lower than you can sound. Tell me what he done with that funny-shaped leg thingamajig as Wallachia gave him. And why'd the new church parsons, fellers as used to be sailors, wear them queer robes and cover themselves with them gold-like things Obed brung, huh? The watery blue eyes were almost savage and maniacal now, and the dirty white beard bristled electrically. Old Zadok probably saw me shrink back, for he had begun to cackle evilly. You're beginning to see, huh? The old man was getting hysterical, and I began to shiver with a nameless alarm. He laid a gnarled claw on my shoulder, and it seemed to me that its shaking was not altogether that of mirth. You suppose one night you seed something heavy heaved off an Obed's dory beyond the reef, and then learned next day a young feller was missing from home, huh? Did anybody ever see Hyde or Hera Hiram Gilman again? Did they? And Nick Pierce? And Llewellyn Waite? And Adoniram Southwick? And Henry Garrison, huh? Shapes talking sign language with their hands. Them as had real hands. Well, sir, that was the time Obed begun to get on his feet again. Folks see his 3 daughters a wearing gold-like things as nobody'd ever seen on 'em before, and smoke started coming out of the refinery chimbley. Other folks were prospering, too. Fish begun to swarm into the harbor fit to kill, and heaven knows what size cargoes we'd begun to ship out to Newburyport, Arkham, and Boston. 'Twas then Obed got the old branch railroad put through. Some Kingsport fishermen heard about the catch and come up in sloops, but they was all lost. Nobody ever see 'em again. And just then, our folks organized the Esoteric Order of Dagon and bought Masonic Hall off an cavalry commandery for it. Matt Elliott was a Mason and again the selling, but he dropped out of sight just then. Now, remember, I ain't saying Obed was sat on having things just like they was on that Kankakee Isle. I don't think he aimed at first to do no mixing, nor raise no young'uns to take to the water and turn into fishes with eternal life. He wanted them gold things, and was willing to pay heavy, and I guess the others was satisfied for a while. Come in 46, the town done some looking and thinking for itself. Too many folks missing, too much wild preaching at meeting of a Sunday. Too much talk about that reef. There was a party one night as followed Obed's crowd out to the reef, and I heard shots betwixt the dories. Next day, Obed and 32 others was in jail with everybody a-wondering just what was afoot and just what charge agin him could be got to hold. God, if anybody had look ahead